All right, guys, welcome to the pilot episode of the Hyperline Podcast. We are here, three of us, loving Deadlock, and get on board the Hyperline, ride it to the lane with us, and we're going to get to Chat Town.
Blank broke immediately. You couldn't even get through the opening sentence.
I didn't think you would actually go with that opening. It's an insane opening.
I'm just, I'm smooth like that, Blank, if you'd like to just listen to what I'm about to say. Anyway, we are going to be talking non-stop Deadlock. We're going to be bringing you everything that is going on throughout the weeks of Deadlock, because right now, the hype is flying. That is fair to say. Alongside me, I've got Jaeben and Blank to talk about everything that is currently going on. And if you're unfamiliar with us, why don't we do a little bit of intro to start things off? Blank, how about you yourself? What are you used to be doing? Of course, we've got lots of Deadlock on the way for you, but what have you done before all of this?
There's a lot of Deadlock on the way for me, hopefully in the future. Before this, I worked on Overwatch and then PUBG Mobile for quite a long time, and then I was on another channel for a bit, and now I'm here doing the Hyperline.
The Hyperline. How about yourself, Jaeben? You're now on the Hyperline.
Yeah, I'm Jaeben, long-time MOBA player, multi-time professional gamer. I guess we had to bring someone to the show that had a little bit of skill, or else, it'd be a bit low level. But yeah, as long pro player in Here's the Storm, League of Legends Wild Rift, so I got a bit of experience. Been enjoying Deadlock since the early days, where it was a lot more closed than it is now. But yeah, really excited with the trajectory of the game and how it's going.
I like how we both went from a normal game to a mobile game.
Yes,
that's the way to do it.
Jaeben's been a little bit unlucky with that from time to time. But, well, Jaeben introduces himself like that. I am the only one that's won a tournament when it comes to Deadlock, and that is factual, as I was able to win. Actually, a tournament that Blank was doing. And maybe he just did it. Maybe he just invited me so I could win. Who knows? But I am Kaelaris. I have been a host and commentator in Esports for 15 plus years. Yes, I'm very old. I've done StarCraft 2. I do PUBG PC. We do PUBG Mobile from time to time. We've done World of Warcraft. We did Heroes of the Storm for a long time as well, and I was able to watch Jaeben get second place in many world championship. He doesn't like that bit, but that's fine. So those are our intros. That's
not first place in a Deadlock tournament, is it? But we'll take what we can get.
I know. Very. Yeah, you're right. You'll make it one day. Right, let's bring up our first topic. Let's talk about what everybody's talking about at the moment when it comes to Deadlock. The new heroes on the block. Suffice to say, we are recording this as we now have 5 out of the 6 heroes. So who's that 6th hero going to be? Ooh.
I love that you can still vote for Apollo. It's great. I'm sliding those votes in. Yeah, it could be anyone. Like, it could even be Slork.
True, it could be Slork. I have not voted for him at all. I actually have a load of votes. I just refuse to vote for him. I don't want to ruin my perfect wall of Celeste. That's all.
Yeah, you only had Celeste the whole time, right?
Yeah, I got like 270 votes for him. Finally came
what?
out. I was like the only voter for Celeste.
Yeah, you really were. That's
the
ridiculous.
Sticker wall, though. Yeah, I think the sticker wall is like a great example of the small things that it feels very Valve coded, where it's all the small things that kind of make it feel more alive and you feel more connected to it all. Just like every time you vote, there's another sticker on the wall. It's such a dumb thing, and the level they've gone to it feels ridiculous. Where you see some people's walls and it's like 600 stickers because they've played way too many games, and it's just an insane spread. And you're like, who went out of their way to make sure all of these were placed properly? Surely somebody has sat down and worked out up to like 1,000 stickers in case someone did it, and it's just ridiculous.
I completely agree, and I wish they'd leave it there almost. Like, I wish we had the previous sticker wall there so that we could like have this one like overlapping it, and it's like almost a trophy of I voted this many times, Blank. It's like, I think it's awesome. Obviously when the first one went away, you just have the one sticker there for I voted, basically. But I would love if it just stayed, personally.
Yeah, I think so as well. You are right. I wonder where like the 1,000 sticker went. I'm sure someone out there has it. There is some really, I want to say, committed players who do have something like 500 plus stickers. I don't know how they get them all. It's probably from a load of Brawl games and they've just been purely playing Brawl. But it's impressive. So, if you have any, feel free to at any of us over on Twitter and show us your incredible wall, because I want to know where the stickers are going. But yeah, I wish it did stay. I also wish we had like souvenirs, like the Christmas souvenir. I wish we had one for participating in the voting aspect of it all, because that would be cool.
Well, you got your one voting sticker from the previous one, right? That's it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And maybe they'll add a new one, and we'll have 2 voting stickers if you participated in both of them. instead of 1,000. But hey, we're going a little bit off topic with this. Let's talk about those new heroes, right? Of course, Rem came out first. Then we had Graves, Silver, Venator, Celeste was the 5th. Who's going to be the 6th? We don't know yet. But let's start from the very beginning with Rem, of course, here. He's been out for quite a while now, Jaeben and Blank. I personally love him. You guys know I love playing this little guy. How about yourselves? Jaeben, you're not really much of a supporty guy, although initially when he was starting things out, it wasn't full support. People were playing him a little differently. What's your take?
Yeah, no, I think it's good that they're adding more characters in that kind of realm. Obviously, Paige was like from the last batch was like very support heavy. Like, I mean, I love Valve's approach to that in the sense that like, or, you know, Yoshi's approach, I suppose, and the dev team's approach where the heroes aren't locked to a certain role. You know, we had that period where Vindicta was a support and she was building all the on-hit effects with Alkfire and she was kind of getting value like that. But the kits generally feel a bit more open with their design, but I do like that, you know, they do feel like they should add some characters. They're like, this is a support, you know, if you want to be the guy healing your team, you want to be the person who's like, you know, building all the utility, these characters are more aimed at that kind of role. So I like his addition in that regard, and I think, you know, if you compare it to like Yuumi from League of Legends, I think everyone would agree it's a much more healthy implementation. I'm still not a huge fan of how safe he can feel with the jump, just because, you know, it's like, yeah, if you don't have slowing X, he's gone. But you know, I do like his design overall. I think the sleep is really cool. It is getting more and more oppressive as people realize, like, hey, if we sleep one guy, we can all melee him at the same time. And it's like we're all Haze. So as people get better, it is getting more scary for sure. But I do think his design is really cool, and I think it's good to have more characters to kind of fill that kind of void.
I saw an incredible like compilation over on Twitter the other day, basically being like, it's the Black Flash moment from Jujutsu Kaisen. Which...
Slapped. Now, look at that nuke.
Which you guys probably don't know about, but it was just all 4 of them slamming some guy who got slapped by. I'm sorry, this is probably the wrong audience for this, but yeah, it was all 4 guys just slamming one dude who slept. It was pretty fun to watch. I think Rem's cool. I think he'd be built like a ton of different ways, which is kind of a little bit different from the rest of the squad, who have like kind of slight different variations on how you want to build them. There was a great video by Theta Zero who's basically saying that Rem's not a healer, and like basic healing tempo doesn't do too much for him. Healing Nova is kind of overpriced for what it does on Rem as well.
This was before the buff that you got, right, though?
Yeah, this was before the buff as well. And even then, I still think that he's kind of right in that aspect, because it's like missing health that you gain, which is like kind of the big bursty heal, which is the one you want to use to save people. But I thought it was cool. I think that he's definitely a very different role to Paige, but well, not a different role, but like kind of different play style. But you don't have those moments anymore where someone has a Paige with any team and you kind of screwed by that. You also have a Rem now as well.
Makes sense. I personally love being able to just jump around everywhere. I think people aren't, but people will start utilizing that little bit more of the you put your helper on the minion in order to be able to make that kind of escape and stuff like that. Otherwise, you can't actually make that jump. And I think that's kind of an awesome little bit of a design choice for them to go with. And who knows, maybe down the line, once people get better with it, it will get even more oppressive. Who knows for that? But I think that it does have a unique kit. And speaking of how those unique kits play out, I think more of the heroes have those unique kits, such as a hero like Graves, right? Who is kind of acting as this summoner. Initially, I think Blank started off pretty strong. People were thinking to themselves, these numbers are kind of cheeky here for Graves. But what was your take on her and on how she's kind of played things out?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people were sort of worried about the Jar of the Dead, which was very strong. But then also Ultimate is ridiculous as well. I mean, being able to basically split push an entire lane is very difficult in pug matches. But I think in terms of the esports scene, we actually haven't really seen it at all. I don't think people rate her very highly. I think NA was saying that she was going to be crazy. EU didn't touch her one bit. We really haven't seen her too much in pro play. But in pugs, like she's very annoying to deal with. It's like having almost that 7th player to push out a side lane. I remember playing a game with Jaeben the other day where I was playing Rem, and I was just putting all my little helpers on the minions, which was making his life hard because he couldn't do his job on Graves, which was pushing the side lane. Which I imagine was frustrating for him. I watched the VOD back and I realized I was making a big mistake. But yeah, But still, it's
He never told me that. He kept that to himself.
Yeah, I
until,
did,
like,
I
it
did,
felt like
I
it had
did.
to come out. Like,
Blank makes no mistakes until after the fact. All right,
Yeah,
Jaeben,
okay,
if you just let him.
or if he did, he won't tell you it happened until like it's just mandatory. Like he had to share that context just now, or else the story wouldn't have lined up.
I have to be I have to be confident in the game. You know, I've got to be confident in my decision in the game, otherwise I'm going to fall off. Morale's going to be low for myself. That's how it works. But yeah, no, I think she's a cool character. I do think that the main thing that's strong about her is actually grasping hands. Like that ability is insane. I feel like maybe they should cap the amount of times it can grasp you, maybe twice per hero, maybe. I don't know, because it is abysmally strong to play against, and you can't one hop over it either. Like you have to dash upwards to get
Really
over the
commit.
top of it. Yeah, so you're either losing 1 or 2 stamina either way getting around it. Like it's getting something from you no matter what happens.
I think we both had the same thought about that, Jaeben, which was we wish we could just have it as default instantly as the vertical application as opposed to the horizontal. If you could just toggle something like that, because I think the vertical use of grabby hounds is much stronger than the horizontal. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting better with the horizontal. I just can't. It's like the delay. It's so hard to place it behind people to catch them. But every time I'm like within 0.1 seconds of getting them, so I'm pretty sure I'm getting closer. No, I definitely agree with you that the vertical placement is generally a lot stronger. Just completely blocking off corridors is like super oppressive. So I do understand. I think it's funny that I recently made the switch to instant cast or quick cast, across the board on basically all of my skills. And she's like the only character where it doesn't do it still, because they still want to give you the chance to swap it, I think. So like, even if you want quick cast, it still like asks me to place it normally, which I always think is really funny. No, I do think the character is really cool. It's definitely a very different play style. I love that she's got a unique gun. I think that's something I'll say about quite a few of the characters in this cast, is that something I really liked about Paige, other than the fact that she was like a dedicated support, is just that she brought a very unique gun. And I think there's a lot of design space within this that they're starting to play around with a lot more, you know? Like, obviously, we'll get to like Venator, and he's just like your standard Dev 1, and there's going to need to be characters that exist like that. But outside of that realm, I think there's so much they can mess with. And already having like, the Moira Drain meme kind of vibes is like, it feels very satisfying to use, even though it probably you wouldn't necessarily think it should, right? It should be like, oh, this is really easy and boring, I'm just standing here with the beam, but it's a very satisfying play pattern to like throw the skulls and chase someone down and, drain all their power and this kind of stuff. So I do think she's really cool. I do think the nerf is probably a bit of like a initial reaction to like, oh, I don't know, I have to melee the skulls yet. Oh, now I know I melee the skulls. Suddenly her DPS is way down, right? Like, and it was a bit knee jerk just off like the initial splash she was making on the stats, I assume. Which is probably better safe than sorry. I think especially the most recent nerf, like to the range, feels pretty bad. Now you're like you have to be really close. So 10 meters is quite brutal comparatively. But I still think she's in a good spot. So, like, maybe it's fine overall. Like, I still think she's very playable, especially in pubs. Like, obviously in competitive, not making much of a splash. But I think she's the kind of character that benefits from people not being coordinated against her. Like, she gets more value for them not responding to the tombstone. She gets more value for them not fixing the side lanes. She gets more value if they're not as good at dealing with the skulls, right? Like, if you've got an ally and, you call, like, skulls as you're running away and they shoot them all, like, there's no damage coming out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think she benefits from that less coordinated environment.
I completely agree on the idea of the knee-jerk reaction, because you were watching those first few days. Nobody was shooting the skulls. Nobody was punching the skulls. And then all of a sudden, I throw them out. They're gone. They're not. They don't exist anymore. And as you say, with the gun style, my first question straight away was, okay, how does split shot work with this? Like, and how does that kind of... Yeah, and we noticed that it kind of created this massive cone potential once you've, found yourself the position. But I mean, speaking of like the way the new guns work, Silver, the third hero coming out, of course, does have a slightly unique gun, and especially a unique one to be able to kind of coordinate with that gun as well. So let's talk about Silver, because Jaeben, when we first saw that on Deadlock Night Shift as well, we saw quite a bit of damage coming out from good old Silver, and I think people were scared about the potential versatility of the abilities that this character has. What was your take on Silver?
Yeah, I think on the other hand here, the knee-jerk reaction was definitely deserved. Day one was pretty disgusting. Yeah, like you said, another very unique feeling gun. Like, obviously, it's still a gun. Like, it's not the same as, like, Graves or Page, whatever, but it definitely feels very different to everything else. You know, notoriously, when she came out, you literally could not last it because the time between shots was too long, so you could not secure your own souls. So I think that was
not great.
Yeah, it's a little better now since they buffed that a little bit, the fire rate gap. But yeah, I mean, overall, the character it feels like an incredible character, to be honest. I mean, I know they brought on the Risk of Rain 2 devs at some point. I'm not sure how many of these they're directly involved with, but you know, you compare some of these to like the original Neon Prime designs and stuff like that, right? And the flair of these characters is crazy. Like I was listening to somebody talk about her ult, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I think it'd be cool if you could cancel it, right?" And then the chat rebuttal was like, "Yeah, but you can't cancel it because it's a curse that she can't control." You know, that's the lore of it, is that she's consumed by the curse. You must be in the ult the whole time. And I think those sort of design decisions feel really cool, and there's so much flair to the character. Super high skill cap, crazy high skill cap on this one.
Agreed.
Like, you need the whole ensemble. You need good aim, you need good target selection, you need, like, you know, to think about how you're gonna team fight. Yeah, you need timing to come in. Like, incredibly high skill ceiling on that character for sure.
The fact that day one people have the boot charge and then suddenly realizing you can just turn around and throw people the other way, or like I was like, okay, well, if anything else other than this kit being there, and then you've got something like that potentially to be able to fling people in opposite directions, Blank, I was like, okay, yeah, there's a lot to this.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think ZP figured that out at like day one, which was really cool to see, and people were very happy to see it. And again, I like that as well, because you talk about Risk of Rain devs. I mean, Hoppo is one of like the big ones from them, from that like side of Risk of Rain who came in, and you know, there's a lot of characters who are Hoppo coded, right? I mean, Sinclair for one is very much a Hoppo character, but I think they're more leaning into that side of the design choice now with a lot of these characters, which I think is really cool. I think when the game first came out, I was a massive League of Legends player back in the day. I was really hoping they'd add passives almost, because I really like passives. I'm even playing Dota 2, like you have your choice of passives at the start. They never added those because I think they didn't want to make the game too complex, because it absolutely was incredibly complex with 4 lanes at the time. But as we go down to 3 lanes now, I think they're leaning more into like not passives, but unique aspects about the character. And I mean, that one right there, Jaeben, you talk about with the Lycan curse, that you can't cancel it early because it is technically a curse right there. If you mess up your time, you go into Lycan form, you don't catch anyone, that's on cooldown for 30 seconds now. And you're not exactly useless, because I still think that they should bring more power off the werewolf form and put it back into human form. I do think she's a little bit lackluster. I think maybe take some of the damage off Slamfire as well, because that's like her whole kit. I mean, the boot kick's great, so is Bowler, but they're kind of nuanced. But Slamfire does a ridiculous amount of damage. I think I've been like one-shotting people with Phantom Strike, Arctic Blast into Slamfire, which is a very silly combo, and then instant transform. But yeah, I think that character is so cool. But as with most of these new characters, they just need balancing and readjusting, because again, the kits are really complex.
Yeah, they definitely are. That day one bowler, when everyone was like, "Oh, it's just a mega capacitor and just an ability," I'm like, "Oh, okay, something's going to happen here. I just don't know exactly what in this very moment." But let's move on. Of course, I don't want to spend half an hour on every single character or anything like that. We've got a time to meet, as we had Venator coming up next, and I actually haven't had an opportunity to play any Venator in a proper game himself, but then, you know, I'm testing things out, seeing how his kit looks. It's kind of the more, I would say, more cookie cutter of the kits compared to some of the other ones that have come along. But then that ult and how much damage that can do. Blank, I have seen this ult perform miracles for Venator.
I don't know if you've seen that meme, Jared. I mean, we had Potential Man for Victor, and now that I do nothing but ult man for Venator, which is the new one that's coming around the block, which really made me laugh, because it is sort of true. I mean, he has such a long cooldown on the rest of the abilities. Although they are really good, and I think some people are using traps phenomenally. I was watching Situation the other day. He drops like traps just on the edge around the corner on sidewalkers, and people just get sucked into them if they ever try and dive them, which I think is a really cool usage of it. And I think the traps are like a really cool tool, because later on, once you got like cooldown, you can trap the entirety of mid boss. It is very difficult to do anything and kind of frustrating to deal with, especially when you're walking through veils into it. But he's a super cool character. I just think that some of his cooldowns are too long, and a lot of the focus is on the ult. I mean, there's talk about, like, you know, his ult being very similar to Tactical Visor from Soldier in Overwatch, where you hear it and you run away and you don't really interact with it until it runs out. I do think there needs to be a little bit more of a sound cue of when the ult does run out, because I think that right now it's just a slight clicking when he puts it away, but that's it.
Yeah, maybe it needs more than that. I didn't. Again, as I said, I haven't had an opportunity to play really with it, so I didn't realize that it wasn't really that kind of. It didn't give you that feedback, as it were, as an opponent or anything like that. How about yourself, Jaeben? Have you been able to dive in?
I haven't played him myself. I played against it a bit. I don't know. I do think it's like the softest landing of the group so far. Like he hasn't outside of like the I'm pressing 4 and like, you know, he was completely one-shotting people
Opening
on day
rounds,
one, which was, was clearly a bug. Apparently, they fixed that pretty promptly. But outside of like that, it does feel like he only has these windows where it's like, I press 4 and like I shoot 3 bullets to do a bunch of damage, and then I go back to like being a really weak Haze. Like it just doesn't really. It feels like he's filling that same kind of role, and I want to like him stylistically. Like I think again his flair is very cool. It shouldn't feel like it's a particularly like interesting design. I don't think like the character archetype design is like that fresh, like this killer priest kind of vibe. But I think it's executed really well. I think like his voice lines are very cool. Like the name of his gun and stuff being like a verse and stuff like that is like pretty cool. Again, the flair is incredible, and like I think the design of his the grenades and the traps and like the knockback on the 2, it does flow, but it just it doesn't feel like the rest of the kit is like landing in power right now. I don't know. It basically it just feels like he's pressing 4, and then he's really significant, and then he's just like, well, I'll see you guys in like 80 seconds. I'll go back in the jungle. Like my bad. Like I'll get out of here.
I mean it's like 170-second cooldown as well. So if you want to use it, you have to max it. In which case, you know you're obsoleting some of your kit early anyway. I think it's frustrating. It's definitely frustrating to play around. And I would like to see like some of his power taken away from the ult and put into the rest of his abilities. I think he's the one character where I was like, all of his abilities sort of live in a vacuum where you can gut shot someone back into a trap, but they don't really interact with each other very much. I'd love for like the grenade to do something different. Like if you hit someone with a grenade and then you hit them with a blessed melee, maybe it does additional damage, stuff like that. But I think that's the one thing that's missing from like a lot of Deadlock characters is just some interactivity between the kits sometimes. I think once we get to it later on, I mean, Celeste is amazing. I love the way her kit like mixes and matches together. Like probably my most favorite character design out of any hero in Deadlock.
Oh, she seems scary to me, but for me to wrap things up on Venator, I'm just happy that he has like a headbutt as one of his melees. It reminds me of Gangs of New York, and that's like one of my favorite films of all time, so I'm totally okay with that. But you're right, let's like kind of jump onto Celeste here and see how things are going with her, because she's able to do a lot of jumping, that's for sure, with the kind of how gravity works for her. But this is a hero, guys, that I was very excited for the release of, because I had no information about how these kits were going to line up. And I saw Celeste and I thought to myself, because I'm a support guy, I'm like, surely she's a support, right? And then I tested the kit and I'm like, this doesn't really feel that supporty, Jaeben. This feels quite strong.
Not for you, buddy.
No. Get away, Kaelaris.
Get back on that rem. Get back on that rem. No, I think she's really cool. Once again, speaking to the idea of unique guns, I think her gun is really cool. Another kind of like really unique aiming pattern. You've got to kind of like undershoot it, like go lower. It's like, reverse drop, because you've got to like bounce them kind of, and then they've got the secondary bounce on the back. I've already seen like some clips of people getting kills around corners by like bouncing it off walls and stuff, and they don't expect it. Like it's very cool. I think her kit is really great and does actually like Blank kind of suggested, it does combine really well. It feels like everything makes sense with each other. The ult especially, it's a very cool idea. It's surprisingly difficult to hit sometimes, but that might just be a me problem. The one design issue I kind of have with Celeste, I talked with Blank about this a bit, is the design of her shield scares me a little bit, because it becomes one of these abilities where it's like, hey, if you break this shield, you're going to lose because I'm going to silence you and do a bunch of damage. But if you don't break this shield, I've got a huge shield and I'm gonna kill you anyway. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of design is pretty dangerous. I've already seen like Ido going crazy with her and just like running lobbies, and that's like on day one. So like you can only assume people are gonna get better at this kind of character, right? And like the limits of especially her movement, kind of what Blank suggested as well with like passives in the game, and she has this natural holiday kind of jump pad
Floatiness,
experience where you're always in like float state. Which is incredibly powerful in the hands of like people who have mastered the movement. Like you see people getting from one side of the map to the other.
It's
in,
Viscous
like, 10
V2
seconds.
actually. Oh Christ.
It does kind of feel like that, yeah. Like the mobility that she provides is crazy. So like when you have that game sense, I think it's natural that you can kind of dominate a game if she does output a lot of damage and stuff.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the ult bounces off you as well, right? So it can bounce between you and your target.
Yeah, once you max out your shield, it will bounce between you and the target, as long as the shield is active. So again, this is where like Jaeven's point is like very important. It's like now you have another situation. It's like, okay, so I break the shield, I take a ton of damage, and I'm silenced. Or I take a ton of damage and the ult's bouncing between Celeste and me. So it's tough. It's very, very tough. I'm kind of worried about how that goes down. Maybe they need to reduce the barrier amount, reduce like the amount of damage it does, reduce the silence time. Because I think the max upgrade on it is plus 2 seconds on the silence, as well as Shining Wonder can bounce between her and a target. So it's wild. It is wild.
You were saying, Blank, that you like this kit. You like how Celeste's come out.
I do. Because right. I think it's flashing light or something like that on her one. But yeah,
Lighty light, whatever. All the lights.
Lighty light. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't quite figured out all the names of the abilities yet. I know the ultimate Shining Wonder. But that applies like a debuff on a target, which makes them take additional spirit damage every time you hit them. And the weapon has like sort of auto aim. As long as you're hitting it off the floor, it'll like swerve towards the target. So it makes it very easy to hit. Later on, I think without even having cooldown, it has 100% uptime, not only on the damage you're dealing to target, but you get not against the target, but you get buff 35% spirit lifesteal or something like that. It's a lot. So you have that up permanently, which is a ridiculous amount for around about 15 minutes into the game if you're maxing it first. So you become this character that has a shield, gets in your face, torment pulse, you're constantly doing damage, you're constantly healing. It's super hard to get her off you, and she can just run the lobby early game because she has movement as well. She gets from lane to lane super quickly and can just fix all the lanes. I think that she's going to receive some nerfs pretty quickly, basically.
No, maybe. Yeah, it seems quite strong. Seems like in the hands of good players, as Jaeben was saying, that there is potential terror on the horizon for some of the opponents of Celeste for sure. And beyond that, we can't really talk about Apollo yet because you don't really have him. But he has a sword. He's going to stab things.
He's cool.
One would assume.
He's kind of small. He's a small guy.
Yeah, he's a small dude.
We're going to line up a joke about me.
Guy.
Yeah,
because that's kind of
they call him the Kaelaris.
The
Kaelaris of Deadlock.
I did do fencing when I was younger. I did.
Oh God.
Yoshi knows that. He knows.
We know what I'm cosplaying, I guess. Jeez Louise. But, okay, so those are the 6 heroes and kind of how things are. Obviously, we're expecting and anticipating Apollo's release and stuff like that. But I want to talk to you guys about what is the potential for ability creep and potential for power creep in some of these heroes? Because these new kits feel furious. They feel fascinating to the point where, some of the old heroes might have a hard time kind of stacking up against some of these. So what was your take on that, Blank? Because there's a lot in these kits, especially in like a silver kit. Of course, it's very kind of, spread out, as it were. Of course, you have to shift between the abilities and things like that. But there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of potential CC, potential lockdown. What are you thinking here, Blank?
Well, she has like 6 abilities, right? And then if you look at Rem, he has effectively 4 because all of his items sort of become his own abilities because they're all amped by his 2. But yeah, I think that when you look at them, it's sort of that design choice coming through from Valve. And I think we got to remember this game's still an alpha. I think the more we've got through is like Mina was cool. Victor was really cool. Doorman was awesome. I think Doorman is kind of where they like sort of had that magical moment of like, this is how I want the heroes to be. This is what we want them to look like. This is what kind of interactivity we want them to have. And I think since then, we've had just 6 doormans in a row, essentially. It's how I feel. Like they're awesome. I think all the characters look really cool. They all play very well, and I think they're fun. I think fun is the main thing. But you wouldn't ever catch me playing Infernus right now. Like, I don't want to play Infernus. It's just...
It doesn't interest you as much?
It doesn't interest me at all. Like, I know Jaeben used to play him. I don't think you want to play him anymore either. And it's tough. It's really tough. And I do wonder if they're going to go back and start looking at some of the old heroes. Because, again, it's an alpha. They still have time to do that. They go over some stuff. Because I know people talk about already that, like, Warden's Shield is power crept by Celeste Shield.
We have witnessed reworks of entire kits in previous MOBAs, right? Like, Jaeben, it's looking at how that could potentially go for other heroes. But, I mean, what's your opinion about, like, kind of the state of these heroes and their kit, as well as, hey, the potential of also kind of going back and looking at some of those old heroes?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think I definitely agree. You look at this selection and, yeah, they do feel crazy comparatively, not only in, like, design, but also just, yeah, the scale of the kits, like you say, just the options that they have brought. Like, you know, yeah, Silver has 6 abilities, like, Rem is going invulnerable, completely disappearing from the map. Like, I mean, like I said, I do think, like, Venator is the most reserved of them. And, like, I don't feel like he is so far off of, like, a standard kit we've had before. I do feel like, I don't know, there is a lot of presence of older characters still in the meta, for sure. Like, it doesn't feel like the new ones are just completely dominating the game. Part of it, you know, when they do well is that people aren't just familiar with them yet, right? It's pretty standard if they come out strong, that they're just going to perform better because people don't know how to counter them or how to play around them, right? Like we saw with Graves. I do obviously think there's room to improve old characters, both in terms of kits and design, right? Like, we've already seen that a little bit with, like, Vindicta. I think the Vindicta change is massive. Because, like, visually, I think the new characters, like you say, I think Doorman was definitely the part where, like, the flare made a massive jump. You know, as soon as you saw designs like that, it felt like, yeah, even just the last 6 and this 6, it does feel like there is a big step up in terms of, like, overall, yeah, character design and flair. And part of that probably stems from the fact that, you know, a lot of this early roster was like Neon Prime, and it was a very different game, and they were kind of, you know, changed into kind of what they are now. I even saw things like, you know, Shiv's model and stuff is basically still from Neon Prime, right? Yeah. And that's probably why he doesn't feel as, like, you know, he doesn't feel out of place, but he doesn't feel as, like, signature in his style, or like how he
You don't love the floppy hair, man? What the hell?
No, someone needs to cut that. All right, we need to get. I know Blank, you're not going to be commenting on any hair. All right, here, but like, we need rid of that. That is some bad stuff. Sorry to interrupt, Jaeben.
But, like, you know, I do think if you look at, like, the old Vindicta and this Vindicta, the new one is, like, miles better and does feel like it has that signature look. And, you know, she does feel like it fits a lot better in the game. So I think, like, you know, glow-ups like that for a lot of the cast make a lot of sense. But I'm not sure that I feel like, you know, a lot of the older kits necessarily need to be completely reworked. I think just a lot of these new heroes need time to settle, and just, like, they obviously have a lot more design space to play with as they make new characters. They can naturally be like, oh, we've done this before, let's do something really different. But no, I think at the same time, these characters don't look as flashy if these, like, more standard characters don't exist in the first place, right? Like, it'd be cool if everybody was crazy, but, like, you need some sort of grounded design, I think, to, like, make the flashy stuff feel more important, right? You're gonna always have to have a Haze, and, like, you know, there's gonna have to be an Infernus. Yeah, exactly, right? You know, Zahen isn't cool, you know, without Master Yi in the game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to have the fundamental heroes to even also onboard people as well, right? And then you can have your more kind of crazy heroes down the line, and some can get really wacky if really time goes very, very deep with Deadlock. But we're already kind of seeing some of those building blocks really kind of add. And again, it's just the early stages, really, of Deadlock, where you still cannot play the game without an invite, and yet the player base looks so impressive with just invites, which is, I mean, this patch has brought people in. Let's talk about that a little bit, right? The fact that currently the player count for Deadlock here, Blank, I have not looked at it today, but ever since we saw that this new patch came along alongside Street Ball, which we can talk about in a little bit, the player count looks fantastic here for Deadlock, and I think that if it can continue that kind of momentum on, I think it's going to, you know, skyrocket.
Yeah, it was 126k player peak in the last 24 hours, which is very astounding considering that when the embargo was first lifted about 16 months ago, it was 171k. So we're creeping up on the all-time of Deadlock's player base, which is really, really cool to see. And this is like a regular player count as well. And I think the player count is shooting further up now that Celeste came out. I think a lot of people were waiting for Celeste to come out. But yeah, I think it's really cool. We're getting a lot of almost refugees, I think, from rivals as well, because I think some of their players are looking to move across, play some different games for the time being. I think the patch cycle out there is a bit weird right now. But yeah, it's cool. I think it's really, really cool. You're even seeing Overwatch. I don't want to really talk about how Overwatch has released these heroes, but they're trying to release a 6-hero roster. And it almost feels like, not going to say they're copying, but yeah.
They also did remove the 2 from Overwatch now, so now it's just Overwatch again.
It's just Overwatch. Yeah, Overwatch released 6 new heroes. So I mean, Valve is once again like they're molding, they're breaking the mold a lot, and a lot of other companies are following suit. It's cool to see.
I agree. Jaeben, obviously you've been playing it almost stalwartly, almost through the entirety of it, even when it was down in the doldrums of only 10k play. What was the lowest number? I don't even remember, to be honest.
I think 7k is when the lowest that I was playing.
Which is still good for a Steam game, by the way.
Yeah.
It would be hard to say, right? Because, I mean, obviously before, it was public, quote unquote, it would be even smaller, right? I remember I met Blank by running into him by queuing in the alpha, and he went, "Do you know Kaelaris?"
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh yeah, I do, yeah."
Yeah, no, this ginger idiot. Yeah.
I do remember that. Those are times back when we had quarantined hours when we could play Deadlock early in the morning. Yeah, good times.
That was Blank's pocket arc. Rough times. We try not to talk about it.
Yeah. And you used those wee hours to talk about me. Unreal. That's a waste of time right there.
That's a trend that hasn't changed.
Oh.
But I will say, I think Deadlock right now, I think my rationale for the regrowth of the player base is it is pretty much the most complete package it's ever been by far. Between the addition of the hideout, between the previous major patch where they redid all of the city and they completely changed the lighting and it went a lot darker and way more towards this a cult vibe, the 1930s kind of a cult aesthetic. It took a huge jump more towards looking like that with the main game map. I think those 2 are probably the most significant for me, and just how the game went, from feeling like you were testing this upcoming game to you are now playing a game. You load into the hideout. It's but actually, right? You know what I mean? It is it didn't feel like it was just you went to a menu and you queued up and you tested. Now it feels like it's part of this big thing that they've built out. And I think for a new player coming in, it's a world of difference between you get to the main menu and you see Abrams with Hayes chilling in the background to you spawn into the hideout. You've got this little room to explore. There's a training area. I go in and shoot my gun, right?
The REM
I think that's
secret
such
room.
A difference, for a new player. No one really cares about REM secret room. I think there's a world of difference for a new player to kind of get that as their opening, and I think even just for someone coming back, right? That's such a different experience between back to the main menu. I think it I don't know. I guess I would pose the question: how close do you think we are?
Oh no!
The big question.
Too open. Because I feel like we're pretty close. I feel like the pieces are all there. They're obviously going to keep improving the game. They're going to keep working on stuff, and maybe they want to keep it more contained. But if in a few months there's a trailer that is for Deadlock, and then at the end of the trailer it says available now on Steam, and we all go, whoa, I wouldn't be that surprised.
I felt like they'd need 40-some heroes to do, okay, we're ready to go. I don't know what we're at right now. What's the roster at, Blank? Do you remember?
We're about 40-something.
40-something. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. We're here to announce that, no. Here on the Hyperline Podcast. No, it's, I think that... I think it should... Huh? What
Looking
are you
at
doing?
this, I believe we are at 39 with the release. No, 38,
well,
I believe.
The Kaelaris prediction and blessing may come true. Who knows?
40. Yeah, it's a very different game. I mean, the fact that it's all third person MOBA anyway, it's hard to do. And I mean, Smite tried it with the 1 lane type of deal, and again they had less heroes than this when they initially started. So again, it's very possible, but I think that there's still major things to sort out. I mean, I think they still need to relook at objectives. and they need to relook at the jungle. Those are the first two things that need to get changed.
Okay.
It depends if they want to keep doing hero cycles or not. They want to get more heroes out. I think they could get away with 6 more heroes and be ready for open beta as long as they take a look at jungle as well as objectives first. Because I mean, you were joking yesterday, Jaeben, that you were like, you've cracked the code. I know what the game's about now. The game's about the urn, dude. And it's like, it's sort of true though, where like a lot of the game set is dictated by whether the urn is up, like whether we're challenging their urn spawn, whether you're able to take a neutral, and when is a good time to take mid. I mean, even mid's kind of determined off urn. I mean, we were watching last week where you were seeing the EU players, like you'd have one team take the urn at that moment, you take mid. It's like a weird little trade you do. So they're behind, they get a little bit ahead by taking the urn, you get even further ahead by taking mid boss. But yeah, I think it's a little bit stale. I'd prefer there was something else.
Well, you've brought up an interesting point there, which is the urn changes. That could actually be a bit of a topic here, because I can't decide whether or not insta turn-ins are too much, or like
I don't
if
like
it's okay. You don't like it?
Well, I think I'd like to ask Jaeben about this, because a lot of the discourse I've heard and what I thought was probably the main thing that people need to know is that the big reason why urn was so disgusting and why people were so frustrated about it was Doorman. And again, this is. But if you were not here since the beginning, like you wouldn't even know about the previous stuff, because Doorman is just another one of Valve's little oopsie doopsie forgetsy moments. Because we had Kelvin handing in inside of Dome, we have Viscous who's currently able to take the urn during whilst he's in Goo Ball, and
abusers.
I hate them. But then you had Doorman who was able to instantly hand in by placing a door up top, and then you just walk through the door, hand in, and if a team challenges you, walk back through the door and close it. It's very hard to challenge a Doorman like that, and I think that honestly, just removing Doorman's ability to carry, or anyone to carry the urn through Doorman doors, was enough. I still think you should have to hand it and like have that slight like duration there.
Jaeben?
So my intuition of reading the change initially is I thought, hey, this sounds way better, actually. Just because of the nature of, I don't know, I mean, at least my experience playing pubs. My experience playing pubs is like you have the urn standoff, right? It's like one team is holding the urn, especially if you wanted to be the one who ran the urn. You pick up the urn, you go to the other side, they've got like 3 people there, your team didn't rotate, you just stand there holding the urn like an idiot, and you go, yeah, I guess I'm doing the right thing, but it's not a very rewarding play pattern, right? And obviously that change fixed that, because now if you're the guy that's running the urn, and their team didn't want to contest it, or, you know, even if they are contesting it, you can potentially just get it in. For me, fundamentally, it changes the way the urn, like its phases of contest work. It's like instead of now fighting for the turn-in, which I think was really awkward and very standoffy, now you fight for the pickup. And I think just having that mental shift in kind of the players and how they approach it as an objective just changes that a lot. I think if you're thinking like, okay, I'm not fighting to turn it in as much now, I'm fighting to pick it up because the team that has it now has the advantage, I think you could still kind of make a choice to fight there, right? If you have like the Lash, the Kelvin, the big AoE, you want to take that fight, you could be like, okay, urn is spawning in 10 minutes. I know which side it's on. We're going to be there. We're going to make a play to pick it up. And then we're going to cross the map with it. And, you know, turning it in is a lot simpler. And I think having that fight for the acquisition of the urn is actually a lot more rewarding overall.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of the change. I do agree, urn in general, I still don't like it as much, but I like it more with less of the weird, awkward standoff kind of vibes. I think that was my least favorite part of it, was just that feeling of like, even if you wanted to do it and be a part of that in a pub, it was like an impossible thing. Right? You can't just like walk in with it. It just couldn't be done. So,
I do like I do like that you chase them down now as well. Like you're having to chase people down. Sometimes the urn fight happens like in the middle of the map, where you're like trying to curse a guy to get the urn off him. So it does feel like you're playing American football or rugby. For those of us who live in the UK, I think that it is interesting.
Whew, I was completely lost. I was like, "What's he talking about?"
Sorry. But yeah, I think that's cool. I think that's cool. You're like tackling the urn off of people. But I do wish there was like I've made this comparison a lot before, but like Dragon, where if you take it enough times, like inevitably you're gonna win because you gain that compounding buff over time. I sent you something this morning, Jaeben, which is like, what did it say? Ascendant players literally don't know how to play in late game. All they do is hide until one of them gets bored and gets killed. Which
Gets
I think,
bored.
which I think it made me laugh so much this morning because I hated how true it was. I think that the main thing that's funny about this is it's ascendant players. Like, this is the second to highest rank in the game. But it's true because people don't know what to do at that rank. People don't know how to close out games, and it's only until you start getting to Eternus 3 above that players start closing out games 30 minutes or less. Go on.
For reference here, you guys are playing at Ascendant. If people aren't familiar with that, I'm playing at a little bit of a lower rank. Therefore, I can't play with you guys because I tank your games. Continue, Blank.
Yeah, but I'm so sorry. But yeah,
Oracle.
But again, I think that's an inherent problem of the game where a lot of the game set isn't clear enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
I definitely align with that. Sorry to cut you off, but I do align with that for sure. That I think there's a lot of hidden power in the urn. Like, even if you know how good it is, I think, like you say, it's not very clear. It's not very flashy. And that's kind of like, I joked with you that, like, I see the game now, it's all in urns. And it's because it kind of is. It's like, why should you take mid-boss to get the Rejuvenator? What should you do with the Rejuvenator? Turn in urn. Like, it doesn't make sense fundamentally, but it is absolutely the highest, like, EV play you can make. You're going to get the most value out of pushing your waves, taking their jungle, and turning in the urn. Instead of, like, oh, I have this revive buff, let's go siege, and if I die sieging, it's fine. Like, it's so much harder to siege, even with Rejuve, than it is to just be like, let's just take another 20k in value from crossing the map with the urn and taking their jungle, and then we'll just wait for the next turn. And then eventually, we're 50k ahead,
Wait, hold the phone. So are there solutions here? Or is this something that they are just going to have to kind of tweak around with, move about?
I think they have to tweak it. I think that you've got to do something to adjust the way it works right now, because a lot of games, I think with a lot of other MOBAs, I still think it can be fun to lose. In Deadlock, unfortunately, if you're losing the way that Deadlock intends,
can be brutal.
I don't think it's fun, because you're essentially put in a stranglehold a lot of times, where the team is just getting further, the enemy team is just getting further and further ahead. Because like Jaeben says, you don't want to siege, it's not worth it to you. Why don't we just get 60k ahead to the point where you can no longer even sit underneath your walker with walker resistances? And it's tough to lose like that, man. I don't find it particularly fun. So I think they need more objectives on the map, which either help with pushing lanes, or like what's it called, Herald. Yeah, Herald would have been a good one for that as well. But I don't know. I don't know how they want to go about this.
Be difficult. I think that you're right. I think it can be brutal to lose games sometimes in Deadlock. Actually, I think there's something that has come along to help that a little bit for the players that are a little bit more intimidated by something like the normal game, is Street Brawl. Street Brawl has been kind of my go-to for when I just want to kind of sit back, chill, relax, even play heroes and learn new heroes that I normally don't get to play, right? And I think even you can sit in Street Brawl and increase your skill level in a bit of a chaotic situation and be able to then eventually apply that to the normal game mode. So let's talk about Street Brawl a little bit here, Jaeben, because I get to drag you guys down into the pits with me, into the Street Brawl, and we have a bloody good time, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think Street Ball is an incredible mode. Everything I've heard has been very positive from it. Even that, like, I have friends who have tried the game, haven't really got into it that much, or they've played a bit and it's really complicated. They don't really enjoy it for that reason. But they kind of like a fundamental understanding, and they come back and they try Street Ball and they go, "This is great. I could just chill and play whatever." And like it's not a 30-minute epic where they've taken 7 urns and I lose to an 80k deficit. I do think it's a great mode for that, getting people back into it, getting people to try stuff, like you say, like trying different heroes. I only queue random in this mode, and so like I've never played Abrams before this patch, and now I have like 10 games of Abrams because I get him in Street Brawl all the time, and I hate every second of it. I'm disgusting. I have to take like 3 showers afterwards, but it's a fun mode to like just get in and play different stuff, try different stuff, like you say, increase kind of your skill level with things, because it is, for all intents and purposes, an elongated team fight, right? You're just straight up taking like a 4v4 skirmish over and over again, and just kind of like seeing the interactions between heroes, and like if I'm Abrams, how do I approach this fight? So yeah, I think it's a really great addition to the game for a lot of reasons.
I mean, I think it's cool as well because, again, Deadlock is such a complex game that it gives you some of Deadlock, right? It gives you like 50% of it, without having to deal with the rest of the 50%, which is pushing lanes and macro, etc., which I think is really good, because it's so overwhelming when you used to try and get a new player to get in the game and you try and explain things to them and be like, well, I don't know what I'm building. I don't know how my character works. I don't know which characters I need to be worried about or what those characters do. And then you're also trying to explain them to them, like clearing waves, when to take the urn, why you shouldn't be there, why you should stay with the team at this stage of the game. And it's too much. But I think it's yeah, exactly. And it's way easier to explain all these things during Street Brawl where someone can get to look at other characters. Like, oh, that's what that character does. This is what this character does. I kind of liked playing this character, so maybe I'll play that in the main mode. This item kind of worked well for me here, so I'll just do that. And I think that's super cool where you get these games that almost encourage like on the fly building as well. Because although, yeah, the items are random, it's like you're against a Vindictor. You get offered knockdown. Seems like a pretty good option to me, so you take it. And then maybe in your normal games, you start building knockdowns versus Vindictors as well as Grey Talons then. I think it's a great way to introduce players to the game. I just wish that we had all random.
Yeah, if there was a second mode where it was just all random and everybody can kind of go to that. I mean, I don't mind the idea that there is one mode where you're like, okay, I really want to play these heroes right now. I'm going to go for those. But if there was another queue, because I think that there's probably enough of a player base on Street Brawl alone that says, okay, yeah, if you want to go all random, then everyone's agreeing to that and everyone knows that that is going to be the way to play. You brought up a good point about actives as well, like knockdown, for example, because as someone who sometimes was like, oh yeah, I kind of want a bit more of a chill experience. Sometimes I'd be in normal games and I'd like, okay, navigate away from like an active ability or something because it was like more buttons to press. Something as rudimentary as that. But like Street Brawl gives you, like, if you play enough of it, it really gives you the confidence of being like, okay, I'm super used to this kind of active now. Whereas if you'd have just built that in a normal game and you've never built it before and your team has said, we need this right now, like there's a bit of a more of an onus on like, oh, I've never used this active before. How does this work compared to all of the other abilities that you actually do have as the character? So, but why am I talking about this?
No, it's fine. I mean, it's good. It's good because it's cool as well. Because I mean, I think they're very smart, and I don't know if this was intentional, probably wasn't, but the fact that they made like quite a few of the legendaries actives as well, it's like a case of you trying to get players used to using actives. And what's the best way to do it? You give them a cool ass legendary that they can use in their game.
The piano,
the piano, you know,
bang,
the fabulous ethereal shift, stuff like that. It's cool. It's very cool.
You mean phase shift, the fabulous
yeah.
phase shift. As soon as I first,
shift.
as soon as I got that the first time, I was loving life. This is the greatest item that they've ever added, and long may it never. Did you get it enhanced?
Yeah, I had a holiday game once where I had it enhanced as well, and I was just, you just jump pad in, you land, and then you just pop phase shift. Good luck, everybody.
Seconds on the walker, just died. I was like, oh, I guess we win.
That's so funny. What an item that they have added. It is fun stuff. The legendaries in general was something that I just did not expect, Jaeben, from Street Brawl. I was expecting, okay, I've heard murmurs of Street Brawl. I've heard that you can kind of just go in and just have a bit of fun and stuff like that. And then the legendaries came along, and I was like, these are interesting additions.
I mean, it's very cool, it's just another thing of, it feels like that, I don't want to glaze the Valve devs too hard, but it does feel like it's just that extra little bit of Valve magic they put into something, it's just like, oh, we made this cool mode, it's really different, it doesn't need anything else, but hey, here's like 10 unique signature legendaries, you don't see them every game, you see them sometimes, it feels like a really rewarding moment when you get them, it can completely change how your hero works. Oh, suddenly I'm Vindictor, and my tether is charged, so I just tether someone like 4 times, and there's nothing they can do about it, it's stuff like that, oh, now I'm Shiv with Frostbite Charm on my 2, so every time I dash it's back, like, and I'm just it's a really cool addition to the mode that, like, I don't think anybody anticipated or would have said we have to get this in, but it just feels like there's that little extra bit that they wanted to do on top of it, and like, this is crazy. There's shrink ray, suddenly your character model is like minuscule, and you've got all these high pitched voices, and like
so good.
Your hitbox is like impossible to hit. Like, it's really cool that like they all feel really unique, and there's like a lot of like, it feels like they were like, oh, could we make an item like this? No, that'd be ridiculous. And they were like, all right, throw it in Street Ball.
Throw it in Street Ball.
Gotta be done.
Absolutely. Final thoughts, Blank, on this?
Yeah, I think that Street Brawl's great. I think that it's awesome. I want an all-random mode. I think that some of the legendaries could be slightly tweaked because I like the legendaries being obscenely strong, and they should be obscenely strong. Some of them are stronger than others. I mean, haunting shot is ridiculous. I mean, if one of the enemy gun heroes gets haunting shot, you lose. If one of the enemy spirit characters gets frostbite charm, you lose. I think those two could probably tweak slightly, because I do enjoy the fact that you go against and you're like, damn, he's really strong now. But I don't want it to be like, he's got an item, we auto lose now. That's all. Because I think that if I get Celestial Blessing and you get Frostbite Charm, I shouldn't be disappointed. Like, I should be happy that I have Celestial Blessing.
I think one thing to finally finish off the Street Brawl discussion as well is kind of the objectives and how they kind of sit right now, because there are a lot of games where I just walk up to the objective, the whole team's there, and I'm just like, okay, right, guys, shoot the objective, and it dies. And it's like, yeah, but the whole team is right there. They can't do anything about it. There are some of those moments, Jaeben, where I feel like, maybe there could be a change or two. I don't know. What do you think?
It's an interesting thing because, like, you don't want the games to go too long. You want it to be a short kind of fun mode. I do always think it's really weird when, you know, Shiv, and it's always Shiv, is diving me through, like, the 7 layers of hell. Is like, I just can't get away from him, and then I try to run to my Walker in round 1, and it's just not there.
That is true.
It's just it's busy right now. I don't know, like, I can't find it. I do think that is a little strange, where, like, yeah, elements of the map just kind of don't exist. Like, I don't think it would be that weird if there was a Walker as well, right? Like, I remember when it first came out, like, there was even a thing of, like, somebody won a Street Brawl game in round 1 in, like, a 70-minute game or something because they killed the patron through resists, because apparently that does exist. So I think that's really funny that is a thing. So obviously elements of the map can exist, and I guess the patrons have to, or the game doesn't function, probably. But yeah, I think they could throw the Walkers in, so there's like a little bit more safety, because I do think it's like, it can be a little bit crazy that some of these, like, bruisers can just, you know, dive you way past the Guardian and just start, like, camping the line or whatever, and like you're probably gonna lose anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter that much. But I do think it's a little odd. But overall, in terms of, like, game time, I think it does make sense that it's a bit easy, at least the Guardian rounds. Especially for comebacks, because I feel like, you know, we have the running joke of nobody's ever 3-0'd a game of Street Brawl. At this point, that's clearly not true. We've done more than our fair share, both against and for. But, you know, I think there's a reason for that, right? And I think they wanted to make it so, you know, you don't just lose on the 3rd round. It's way easier to win on the team that has to kill the Guardian. And that's kind of fine, I think. Like, 5 rounds is not that long. At most, you're playing 20 minutes, right, generally. So I think I'm pretty satisfied with, like, even though it is very easy to just walk up and kill the Guardian sometimes, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to, like, because I think I'd spoken to Jason about this before, but I wouldn't be opposed to not invulnerability. So, like, the same way the Patron works, where you have one player that gets 50% resistance, 2 players invulnerable. I wouldn't mind if it was a case if you got 1 player on the Guardian, it gets 40% resist. If you got 2 players, it's got 60%. Which forces you to actually interact with the enemy team, at least. And I think if you're at the point where you can walk up to a Guardian, it's also not a massive ask to also kill the enemy players and then take the Guardian afterwards. But just gives you some of those moments where you are playing as 3 bruisers. Maybe you have a little bit more time to try and sort out the situation before it gets too dire. Because I've lost some Street Brawls in under, like, 4 minutes before. So I would like for that not to happen in future.
Like, you to send me those replays so I can watch you lose in under 4 minutes. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, some of those are last night, so they're pretty fresh.
It's the same. It's the kind of the same issue I had with Guardians, even in the original mode. Of, like, sometimes if you're up against good players, it barely feels like the Guardian is there helping you in any capacity. Yeah. So if something, I don't know. I'm by the by, I'm pretty neutral on this, because, you know, half the time you benefit from, hey, just shoot the Guardian, and then sometimes your opposing team just goes, hey, shoot the Guardian, and you lose. But as you say, you're in so easily in and out of Street Brawls. Is it that much of an issue? Probably not in the grand scheme of things. Let's finish up the podcast by talking about a little bit of what's going on in the esports scene, because, of course, we want to keep up with what is going on. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Deadlock esports, what's really happening there? There's not a huge amount going on. Of course, we've got Deadlock night shifts every single week. We've got the Death Slam events that are happening every so often as well, from, of course, the lovely man Defi, who is making them happen here. So it's difficult to commit to the idea of what Deadlock esports is right now. But Blank, I believe Zergy was saying a thing or so. Obviously, we've had, like, Virtus Pro kind of dip their toes in a little bit as well. They've pulled out as well. I kind of understand why that they may have done that right now. I think it is just early stages at the moment. What are your thoughts here, Blank?
I mean, Vert's probably playing these very early doors for Deadlock. I mean, we didn't even have too many of like the map changes, and the map changes were phenomenal. There's so many that came through. But I think Zergy was saying recently in one of his games, I'm pretty sure it's one I've watched recently, that basically competitive just wasn't worth it to him right now. Which I mean makes sense. I mean, the amount of viewers he gets on Twitch right now, extremely successful. I think it does make much more sense for him to just continue streaming. And I think that for Listic, for instance, like he's doing very well streaming wise as well. He's jumped back on a team for a little bit. And I think that's just because maybe he misses the scene a little bit, and also a chance to earn some money. And I know that he is damn good at the game. By watching his silver recently as well, which did take a little bit of a nerf. But yeah, I think that it is interesting. I hope that the game starts to gain a little bit more traction later on, at least this year, hopefully. Because I think the game is no longer in that state where if you're a TO, you look at it and you go, this is unfinished. I think if you're a TO, you look at Deadlock right now, it could easily go on screen. I think that maybe TOs are just waiting for observer changes, camera changes. Because I think that's the one thing that probably would hold people back is just like readability. The amount of like things that you need to create to make it obvious to viewers.
Okay. How about yourself, Jaeben? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I can absolutely align with that part of it for sure. I think telling a story in any kind of hero shooter game, I think has always been a problem. Even Overwatch, I think, right, where it should have been probably the most accessible in esports, and obviously they had a big scene, but I think even then it was quite hard to follow if you weren't at least familiar with the cast and kind of like what you were looking for. And I think with the nature of kind of a MOBA, like having a lane phase and then like this big confusing mid game like Deadlock kind of has, I think it can be difficult to kind of tell that story without better tools for observers, right? I think, like, in my mind, you need a lot of like bookmarks in terms of locations you want to jump to quickly and stuff like that, to kind of make it flow. I think it's okay that, you know, Zergy and Listic and, you know, all these, that they are fine to stream right now. And I think the good part for me is that they can stream.
Yeah.
I think it's great that there is a big enough viewer base that these kind of like really talented players can do something with the game right now and, you know, make a living off it to some degree, right? I think that's great, and that's a better foundation, honestly, I think, for the game than, you know, having these like massive tournaments that like maybe don't have that sustainability yet. You know, they just kind of exist here and there. So I think that's really valuable that these players do have a consistent day-to-day thing they can do with the game. They can kind of keep going with it. And then, yeah, like Blank says, it does pick up this year. And there is more tournaments and stuff like that. They'll have that opportunity to come back, right? But I think what's more important to me is that viewer base is there. There's clearly a lot of people who are casual fans that are interested in watching, you know, and you know, you see it in a lot of the other streamers from other games, you know, SK coming over and streaming Deadlock again, gets a lot of viewers. I saw Ido have like 2K last night, right? Like, I think these are great numbers for these like players to have, and these creators who are coming over to kind of have and like bring their audiences into the game. And I think that will translate naturally into esports when that comes, right? Like, I know Valve and, you know, Yoshi, and they expressed that they weren't that interested in directly supporting it at the time, like last year, I think, at some point, and that makes perfect sense. They absolutely want to focus on making the game and making it the best they can. But we also know at some point they are going to, right? If the game blows up and is a big hit, we know they're going to be involved. They've shown it in all of their scenes so far. They're always interested in having a presence, right? Whether that's supporting grassroots and like helping build up the pillars that exist, things like Night Shift, right? That's what they choose to do. Or if we get like, you know, the Deadlock International, whatever that looks like, I'm confident that with the that'd be a great name. With the way the game is going, that will exist at some point, and I'm just glad that these players do have an opportunity now to still capitalize on spending a lot of time with the game and, you know, grinding it and getting really good at it. And there's still merit to that, while they kind of have it in their back pocket that, yeah, maybe I will go pro someday when it blows up, right? Like, I think that's great.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that, I mean, you know, you can pull back the curtain a little bit here and say, well, you know, we know a lot of people behind the scenes. We know a lot of these tournament organizers, the big ones, and the big ones have talked about it and have already behind the scenes shown interest in the idea of what this game could potentially become. I think that Deadlock Night Shift has done a brilliant job, personally, I would say, of fostering a community, because every single time it's on, it's 2.5k, 2.8k viewers, and can go up from there wherever it may go. And I think that for a game that is still invite only, technically, it is pretty impressive what they've built so far.
3.5k last week on the NA side. I was very impressed by
Blank
that.
on there.
Well, that was the reason.
That week with Blank on, they were blowing up. It was going crazy.
That is
You
crazy.
guys. It was not me. It wasn't me last week, by the way. It's the week
No.
before. I had less views.
Oh, only 1K, 1K
They
for Blank.
tanked that week.
Tanked that week, dude. Yeah.
But no, I think the future is bright for it. I think that it's interesting watching people be so gun ho about it, and I like the idea that you were saying Yoshi and the boys here are saying, okay, yeah, we're game first and esports later, and I think that is always how good esports in the past have been, because there's too many games that have come along and said we are going to be an esports game, and then completely flop because they haven't built a good game to start things off with. And obviously, we can see that Deadlock is currently building a good game. Well, gentlemen, that is kind of the end of the pilot Hyperline podcast show. Any final thoughts before we get things rolling, or anywhere we can find you? Blank, starting with yourself.
You can find me over at Blankcast at the Bird app, as well as Blank_cast at Instagram, but I don't really post much there. Also, Blankcast over at YouTube, where this is posted, which is where you'll likely see it anyway.
Good point. Jaeben's astonished. Go on, Jaeben.
Yeah, you can find me, Jaeben _ on pretty much every platform. X the Everything app, Twitch, Twitter. Twitter's the same as X the Everything app, but Instagram, I'm everywhere. But yeah, just very excited to see where Deadlock goes, and definitely going to be a good time. Going to be a good year, I think, for it.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be time for us to street ball in a few moments after I've closed my thought here before all of this. You can find me over
Hyperline back to the base.
Hyperline. Don't get shot off, guys. We can. You can find me over at Kaelaris on Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it. You can find me at Adama and Kale on YouTube as well, because we've got a cool YouTube about retro gaming. Yeah. So go over there. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening here to episode 1. We'll be back next week to talk about everything Deadlock. Once again, I'm making that promise so Blank doesn't flop out, and that is going to be great. So we'll see you next week for more Hyperline. Bye for now.